Have you ever wondered where the human limit is? Because all across the planet, communities still exist in places not meant for life. A city made of mud rising straight out of the barren desert. A village made of dry reeds floating on a lake. And monasteries perched precariously on mountaintops right on the edge of the abyss. There, nature is a constant challenge. Yet humans don't just survive. They turn them into their homes. Time and time again, they still choose to hang on in the most extreme places on Earth. This is Shibam, located in the Hadramaut Valley in Yemen. A cluster of skyscrapers rising straight out of the desert floor. The towers here are made of mud. Many stand 7 to 9 stories high. They stand packed tightly together on a narrow patch of land. This way of building comes from the terrain below. The safe land in the valley is limited. Therefore, the entirety of Shibam was built on a high mound. When flash floods rush through the valley. That foundation also helps it avoid the strong currents. Inside Shibam, small rooms are stacked on top of each other. The thick mud walls help cut down the daytime heat. On the ground level, alleys run tight between the blocks of buildings. Because of this, shade covers the streets for hours. But mud is also easily damaged by the desert weather. It is constantly eroding. Because of that, residents have to keep repairing it. Each new layer of mud keeps a wall standing through the next hot season. As long as the walls still stand, the people still have a place to live in the middle of this dry, hot valley. Under the feet of the Uros people is not real ground. It is layers of reeds floating on Lake Titicaca at an altitude of over 3,800 meters above sea level. These islands are made from the floating roots of the Meteora reed. On top, the people layer more dry reeds to create the ground surface. When you walk across, the island floor might sink slightly. The Uros chose this way of life centuries ago. Instead of sticking to the mainland, they moved their homes out onto the lake. When needed, the islands can be separated or reconnected. But a floating home on the water cannot stay stable forever. The reeds underneath gradually rot in the cold water. If they don't add a new layer, the island's surface will soften and sink lower. Therefore, fixing the islands is a part of daily life. The people cut reeds. They spread the reeds over the old foundation. From the totora reed, they also make houses, boats, crafts, and use a part of it for food. Today, some islands have solar panels, but the thing that keeps life going here is still the reeds. As the bottom layer continues to rot in the water, the Uros layer more on top to keep their homes floating on the lake. On one side is the white snowy steppe. On the other are clusters of factories pumping out smoke amid the freezing ice. This is Norilsk, one of the furthest cities in Siberia. Norilsk is almost completely cut off from the rest of Russia. There are no direct roads leading here. You can only get here by plane or by seasonal shipping routes. Winter drags on for months. Temperatures can drop to around minus 50 degrees Celsius. For some weeks, the sun does not rise. The city then lives under artificial light. But the thing clinging tight to Norilsk is not just the cold, it is also the smoke from the metallurgical plants. Nickel, copper, and many other metals are processed right next to residential areas. Near the industrial zones, trees are dead and dry. The ground turns a greyish-brown. Metal dust sits on the roads, on rooftops, and in the air people breathe every day. Even so, over 180,000 people still live here. In the morning, cars still roll over the snow. People still go to work under the dim lights. Behind the apartment blocks, the factories keep running. They provide jobs, wages, and a reason for many families to stay. A cave entrance carved straight into a sheer rock face. Below is a gaping abyss. That is Abuna Yemata, a church located at an altitude of over 2,500 metres. To reach the entrance, there is only one way. You have to climb up the cliff face with your bare hands. One hand gripping a rock crevice, one foot feeling for each foothold. The footholds are narrow and small. In some spots there is only enough room for a single foot. Yet in many places the rock surface is worn smooth after centuries of people passing by. The higher you go, the narrower the path gets. The final stretch shrinks down to a narrow ledge. You have to press your body tight against the wall to keep walking. Right next to you is empty space opening straight down. But this path still has people walking it. Pilgrims still climb up here to pray. Inside, old frescoes cover the stone walls. Outside, there is only sun, wind, and open rock face. As long as people still step across that ledge, Abuna Yemata keeps holding on in the rocky region of Tigray. Tyre tracks cut through the red sand of Wadi Rum. Further away, sandstone cliffs rise up like massive walls. This is a vast desert region in southern Jordan. The ground here is dry and open under the sun. Huge blocks of rock lie scattered across the sandy floor. At the base of the cliffs, only a few low bushes manage to hang on. During the day, Wadi Rum doesn't have many places to escape the heat. Shade is only found in mountain crevices. It also sits beneath rock edges and next to large sandstone blocks. Because shade is scarce, every stop must be planned out in advance. That is what the Bedouin have learned over generations in this harsh land. They live in tents in the middle of the desert. They walking miles to get water and other necessities. When the sun gets high, vehicles stop under the shadow of the mountains. Camels rest near the low bushes. People in the camp brew tea and wait for the hottest part of the day to pass. A giant sandstone pillar rises out of the green valley of the Thessaly region, Greece. At the top, about 300 metres up, a monastery sits right on the edge of the cliff with its prominent red-tiled roof. People call this place Meteora, meaning suspended in the air. Looking up from below, the structure looks almost seamless with the rock mass. No entrance, no large patch of land to expand. In the 14th century, monks chose this place to get away from the unstable life down in the plains. The sheer cliffside itself became the monastery's first line of defense. For centuries, getting in and out depended on ropes and wooden ladders. Food was hauled up from the base of the mountain. Water and supplies also went through that same route. Every shipment had to clear the almost vertical rock face. Today, stone steps and bridge paths have made the climb up easier. 6 Meteora monasteries are still active on these high peaks. You walk across a wooden bridge and climb up stone steps to get inside. There, holy paintings, narrow corridors, and small rooms have been preserved over centuries. The path up has changed, but Meteora still stands high above the valley, cut off from the outside world. In the Indian Himalayas, Spiti Valley sits between dry and cold mountain slopes. Grey rock drapes down the valley, snow clings to rooftops, terraced fields, and narrow roads. Many villages here are located at altitudes over 4,000 metres. Houses cling to bare slopes. White monasteries sit amid the brown rocky backdrop. The road into Spiti is just as tough as its terrain. The path is very narrow. On one side is a sheer mountain wall, on the other is a river sitting deep down in the gorge. When winter comes, snow starts blocking the routes. Some villages are isolated for months. Travel, supplies, and medical care all have to wait for the weather to clear a path. Therefore, life here requires preparation before the cold season arrives. Food is gathered inside houses. Hay is prepared for the livestock. The people farm on narrow patches of land. They raise yaks, goats, and sheep for milk, meat, wool, and draft power. Everything returns to days of waiting until the roads open again. Right on the edge of the Tibetan plateau, there is a kingdom that once existed and then faded away. Mustang sits among the dry valleys of Nepal. The brown, red, and grey earth contrasts sharply with the sky. Down in the valley, villages are scattered across rocky hillsides. Stone houses feature thick white walls. Narrow alleys run between old walls. People still walk through those small paths every day. On the cliffs, caves are carved straight into the mountainside. Many caves sit high up on the rocky slopes. To get to them, you have to climb through very difficult paths. Mustang was once the prosperous kingdom of Lo. The monarchy has come to an end, but what remains still lives on in daily life. Monasteries are still open. Prayer flags still hang along the pathways. In the monastery courtyards, festivals still take place before crowds. They stay because this is the place that holds on to what is left of an old kingdom. Today, Upper Mustang still requires a special permit to enter. You cross rough dirt roads and walk through wide alleys. Around you, an old kingdom is still standing. Zizhu Monastery is located in eastern Tibet. Red, yellow, and white building blocks sit squeezed between mountain rocks. Behind them are jagged rock peaks surrounding the entire monastery complex. This place sits at an altitude of nearly 5,000 meters. The road up is also unlike any normal path. You have to edge along a trail right next to a steep slope, no railings. Below, a deep valley opens up. Around the main monastery, meditation caves are cut into the rock face. They are scattered across the steep cliffs, some entrances reached only by narrow steel frames fixed to the stone. This is where some monks and nuns live. That difficult separates them from the rhythm of life below. And also protects the quiet routine of prayer, study, and retreat. Inside the monastery, red-robed monks and nuns move through the courtyards. They study scriptures, care for poultry, and keep daily life running. Prayer flags cross the rooftops. Bon rituals continue each day, and those who stay keep practicing in a place built around isolation. Yamal juts out in northwest Siberia, Russia. The name is usually understood to mean the end of the land. This is one of the most extreme environments humans have ever tried to conquer. Yamal is an open tundra. No trees. The ground only has patches of lichen clinging close to the rocky bed. Winter lasts for months. Ice covers the paths of both humans and animals. Yet the Nenets people have lived here for generations. They have no permanent homes. Their life is one grand migration. Each year, Nenets families move their reindeer herds along the peninsula. Some herds travel up to 750 miles to find places where food remains under the snow layer. When the reindeer stop, the camp goes up around them. Tents are pitched on the frozen ground. Firewood is gathered from the remaining low bushes. Inside, families cook and warm themselves. Once the snow grows too deep, the camp breaks apart. The reindeer lead the way across the white plain. Behind them, the tents rise again on new ground. The Korowai Treehouses sit deep in the forests of Papua. That is how humans pull their entire life up off the ground. The houses are built at heights of around 164 feet. From below, they look like they are hanging among the large trunks of the rainforest. The Korowai fix their houses to tall and sturdy tree trunks. This height helps them avoid floods, predators, and hostile groups. The only way up is a tree trunk carved with notches for steps. Each step is only wide enough for half a foot. No handrails, no safety nets. The entire house is made from flammable materials. Yet in the middle of the floor there's still a clay hearth used for cooking and staying warm. Unpredictable weather, isolated terrain. But for the Korowai, it is the best way to help them hang on in a region almost not meant for humans. There is a community that has learned to live right on the edge of the abyss. Located on the lip of a 50-metre high basalt cliff, the Spanish town of Castellfollit de la Roca is, in some places, only as wide as 2 rows of houses. The entire medieval settlement sits on a volcanic rock ridge, as thin as a knife blade. Houses are packed so tightly that neighbours can shake hands from opposite sides of the street. Looking from below, the town looks like it was carved straight out of the cliffside. And that isn't too far from the truth. The houses were built using the very basalt rock they stand upon. Stone was cut from the cliff face, then stacked to make walls. Every step toward the centre of town brings you closer to the cliff edge. The medieval walls here serve 2 purposes. One is defense against enemies. The second is keeping residents from falling into the deep abyss below. Fairy Meadows lies in Gilgit-Baltistan in northern Pakistan. To reach it, vehicles have to follow a narrow dirt road cut into the mountainside. One side is a rock wall. The other is a deep drop with no guardrail. After that road, wooden cabins begin to appear among the pine forest. They sit scattered across small patches of raised ground beneath Nanga Parbat. This is not a place where life can continue easily all year. When winter arrives, snow covers the rooftops, footpaths and wooden fences. Many cabins shut down. Access becomes limited. Fairy Meadows almost stops under the deep snow. When the snow pulls back, the first footsteps appear again on the paths of mountain. Trekkers start making their way back toward Nanga Parbat. Local people return to daily life and reopen the travel destination. The Hunza Valley lies deep in Gilgit-Baltistan, surrounded by massive mountain walls. From a distance, this place can look peaceful, but inside the land is split apart. Deep gorges cut through the valley. Karakoram cliffs rise straight up on both sides. The roads have to follow that terrain. In some sections, the path narrows into a thin dirt track running through loose rock. In other places, glaciers and fast-moving water block the way. To cross, you step onto a long suspension bridge. The bridge deck is made only of narrow wooden planks. That terrain leaves almost no room for people to live. Villages are pushed onto narrow ledges. Houses cling to the bare mountainside. Below them is a steep drop. Still, life continues here. The Hunza people grow apricots on thin mountain soil. They dry the fruit and press the kernels for oil to use during the freezing winter. In a valley shaped by rock, cold, and distance, that is part of why people remain. In Antarctica, there is a place that does not look like the rest of the continent. No thick white ice sheet. Just brown rock, grey gravel, and empty mountains. This is the McMurdo Dry Valleys. The area spans about 4,800 square kilometres. Most of its surface stays exposed in one of the coldest places on Earth. Strong cold winds pull moisture out of the valleys. That is why this place looks more like a rocky desert than Antarctica. Almost nothing lives on the surface. No trees, no large land animals. That emptiness is why scientists return every research season. They pitch tents in the wind, collect soil samples, and search beneath the ice. When the camp leaves, the valley becomes empty again. Then the next season, the tents go up on the bare ground once more. Imagine living in a place so far away. Penguins become familiar neighbours. Meanwhile, the closest humans are thousands of miles away. That is McMurdo Station. It sits at the southern tip of Ross Island, Antarctica. This is a major research hub amid the ice and snow. Scientists live and work right inside this station complex. In the winter, temperatures can drop to minus 50 degrees Celsius. The sun disappears for months. When summer returns, the sun stays out all day long. It barely sets. So what is life like in that kind of isolation? Supplies only arrive once a year. Everything must be calculated ahead of time. Simple tasks elsewhere turn into inconveniences here. But work keeps going. Researchers monitor climate change. They look for life beneath frozen bodies of water. Each research season leaves behind more data. Afterward, the data is sent back to the outside world. Meanwhile, McMurdo remains right there amid the ice and wind. At the southern tip of South America, Cape Horn reaches into the cold waters of Chile. Here the land runs out. What remains is black rock, open sea, and wind from the Southern Ocean. Before the Panama Canal, many ships had to round Cape Horn. This headland became one of the hardest gateways on the old sea routes. These waters are almost completely unobstructed by any continent. Because of this, the sea surface gets pushed up with massive force. Waves are taller and wilder as a result. Icebergs drifting from Antarctica can show up along the route. Everything depends on the weather. Still, people lived here. The Yagan moved through these cold waters in dugout canoes. They hunted birds, caught fish, and crossed channels where the water stayed freezing all year. Today, Cape Horn has almost no permanent residents. A small number of people operate the lighthouse and the Chilean Navy station. But the place is still not empty on the map. Sailboats still try to round the headland. Out there, the same wind and waves are still waiting at the edge of South America. Qarhan Lake lies in the Qaidam Basin of Qinghai, China. From above, the lake shows two clear colours. White areas are salt, green areas are brine. This is a difficult place for people to live. The water is too salty to drink. The soil around the lake is too salty for most plants. Much of the area is open, dry, and exposed to wind. Because of this, there are no normal lakeside villages around Qarhan. But people still work here. Dike roads cut across the lake and small observatories in the middle of the green brine. They came back partly because Qarhan holds valuable minerals. Beneath the salt water are large deposits of potassium, magnesium, and lithium. In Mexico, the old church of San Juan Parangaricutiro stands in the middle of a field of black rock. Around the church, the old village is gone. The ground has been completely covered by dried lava. The current path requires crossing jagged blocks of rock. In 1943, the Parikutan volcano appeared near the residential area. Lava flowed for years. It gradually swallowed the entire village. The residents could not continue living in their original spot. They had to leave. But the community of San Juan did not disappear. They continued to live near their old land. Residents still return to the old church. Today, the layer of black rock still sits right up against the base of the church. You have to step across it to get to the ruins. Far off is the Parikutan volcano, the very thing that created this field of stone. El Chaltén sits in southern Argentina, beneath the Fitzroy Massif. It is a small town in Patagonia. Around it are cold valleys, glaciers, and steep rock walls. The weather here changes fast. Fitzroy can disappear behind clouds in a short time. Rain, snow, and low clouds make the trails hard to follow. For climbers, the challenge is not just altitude. It is the steep rock, the strong wind, and the unstable weather. Every section has to be planned carefully. Still, people remain in El Chaltén. The town depends on the trekking and climbing season. Guides, lodges, and small restaurants serve the people who come into Patagonia. When clouds drop to the base of the mountain, the town stays below Fitzroy and waits for the next season to begin. Dariyaboyi lies deep inside the Taklamakan Desert in Xinjiang. Around it are sand, dry ground, and strips of trees growing along the Keria River. To reach it, you have to cross a vast stretch of desert. Conditions here are extremely harsh. Sandstorms can cover the route. Days are hot. There is almost no land for farming. Houses are built from materials found around the village. The village depends on river. The Keria River flows into the desert and slowly weakens. Because of this, the people have to live near places where groundwater remains. They raise sheep and goats. They grow a small amount of crops where water is still available. In the past, travel depended on camels and donkey carts. Some journeys took weeks. Later, many households were moved to a new settlement on the edge of the desert. Life there is more stable. The old Dariyaboyi still lies deep inside the Taklamakan, beside a river that fades into the sand. In Oymyakon, morning begins in deep snow, with cold air clinging to every surface. Cars in front of the houses have to be warmed up just to keep running. Smoke from heating pipes rises above white rooftops. Outside, temperatures often fall below minus 40 degrees Celsius. This village lies deep in Russia's far east. The cold season lasts for months. On some days, the number on the thermometer drops below minus 50 degrees Celsius. Most daily life has to happen behind closed doors. The ground stays frozen for too long to grow many vegetables. Meals here depend heavily on meat and fish. Food is chosen based on what can last through many cold months. But people still live in Oymyakon year-round. Children still go to school. Adults still go out to work. The school only closes when the temperature drops too low. When darkness comes early, lights turn on behind the windows. Cars still wait in front of the houses. The next morning, people step back onto the road, surrounded by snow and the cold air of this village. Anadyr is in Chukotka, near the Gulf of Anadyr and the Bering Sea. It is the capital of one of the most remote regions in Russia. The main way to get here is by plane. When the weather turns bad, flights can be delayed. The city is built on permafrost. Winter lasts for months. Snow covers the streets. The cold and the distance affect how the city works. Goods have to be brought in from other places. Because of that, food and supplies here are often more expensive. Still, people live in Anadyr year-round. The apartment blocks are painted in many colours. This helps the city stand out in the snow. Schools, offices, shops, and the port keep running through the cold season. At the port, wind blows across the cold water of the Gulf of Anadyr. Vehicles keep moving between bright-coloured apartment blocks. Residents walk through the streets to get to work. This city is not easy to live in, but inside it, daily life keeps going. The Beagle Channel cuts through the Tierra del Fuego archipelago, right along the border of Argentina and Chile. On both sides are mountains, rocky islands, and steep sea cliffs. In some places, the cliffs drop straight down close to the water. Behind them are mountain peaks covered with snow all year. This waterway is not easy to pass through. The weather changes fast. Cold rain can last for days. Days are short. The light is weak. When low clouds move in, ships have to pass through wind, cold water, and rocky islands close to the route. But people still live around the Beagle Channel. Ushuaia sits right by the water. The city holds on through its seaport, ship routes, and the flow of people heading toward Antarctica. On the small islands, sea lions lie close to the rock edges. Cormorants fly low over the water. In some coastal areas, penguins appear in the cold wind. Today, ships still leave the port of Ushuaia. Behind them are the city and its small streets. Ahead are strong winds, rocky islands, and the waters at the far end of South America. At more than 4,000 meters above sea level, Hikkim appears as a small village on the slopes of Spiti. Around it are bare mountains, dry ground, and hillsides with almost no large trees. The houses sit in small groups on the mountainside. Thick walls, flat roofs, everything is built to handle cold and wind. The air here is thin. Even a short walk can wear you out quickly. Winter lasts for months. Snow can block the road into the village and make travel harder. But people still live here. They use the short warm season to farm and prepare before the cold returns. In this high mountain village, the post office still works. Letters are collected here and carried out along mountain roads. For the people who stay, it is a small connection between Hikkim and the outside world. In the state of Meghalaya, India, there is a village called Wadi Rum. It is one of the wettest places in the world. Average annual rainfall can reach about 11,860 millimeters. Here, rain lasts for many months. The air is always damp. Low clouds move across the mountainsides. During the rainy season, water runs down the limestone cliffs. Many temporary waterfalls appear around the village. That directly affects daily life. Roads become more slippery. The ground is more likely to slide. Clothes and houses are very hard to dry. People have to work in damp weather almost all the time, but the Khasi people still live here. They use the knup to cover themselves from the rain while working outside. It is a cover woven from bamboo and leaves. It covers the back and head. Both hands stay free to carry things, farm, or walk. In areas near streams, the Khasi also guide tree roots across the water flow. Over time, they grow into living bridges and used as walking paths. In the Spiti Valley, Tashigang sits at about 4,650 meters above sea level. The village is surrounded by rocky mountains, snow, and dry slopes. There are no large markets, no hospital, and only a few basic services. Most supplies come from Kaza, about 30 kilometers away. In winter, snow can block the mountain roads for months, leaving daily life dependent on the weather. Still, people remain here. They live in low houses, raise yaks, and take advantage of the short, warm season to grow crops. Tashigang is known for the highest polling stations in the world. During election season, ballot boxes and documents are carried up the mountain roads. The residents line up to vote in a place where even basic services are hard to bring in. In the middle of Antarctica, Amundsen-Scott stands alone on the white ice. No trees, no towns, no roads leading out. Here the cold can drop down to minus 50 degrees Celsius. Because of this, all daily activities are contained within the research station. Living quarters, the cafeteria, recreation area, even a small museum is located right there. That is also where the researchers work every day. They run the systems. They monitor scientific equipment for months on end. When the last engine sound disappears, Amundsen-Scott stands alone in the Antarctic wind and snow. Every land humans are trying to hang on to carries its own pressure. Some places sit on cliff faces. Some rise up in the middle of deserts. But no matter where it is, life there is still governed by forces far beyond human control. When a civilization fades away, old roofs still remain on the ground. They show traces of communities that once existed and the way humans held on in those lands. If this journey makes you want to look at the world more closely, please hit like and subscribe to the channel. Out there, many strange and little-known lands are still waiting you.